This is Brazos Valley Vets, an archive visit with a military veteran from the Brazos Valley. Now, here's your host, Tom Turbyville.
Brazos Valley Voices is very proud of its relationship with the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial. It's tucked away in College Station's Veterans Park and Athletic Complex at 3101 Harvey Road. It's a hidden gem for sure, a 12-acre site dedicated to veterans from our nation's major wars. The Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial includes life-size statues, a wall of honor, interpretive panels, and memorial sites. It was chartered in 2000 as a nonprofit corporation. The Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial is supported by generous community residents, organizations, and partners, including Brazos County and the municipalities of Bryan and College Station. The Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial's all-volunteer board of directors proudly contributes their time and resources to salute our veterans. Their mission is to proactively pay tribute to veterans through an educational venue where future generations can learn that freedom comes with a heavy price. Former President George H.W. Bush helped dedicate the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial on November the 10th, 2002. Bush said at the time, "The Brazos Valley community can stand proud. The names that mark the memorial showcase the sons and daughters who gave dedicated service to our nation so that future generations can share the freedoms we enjoy. Their task was great, their sacrifice even greater, but their legacy stands firm, and their memories burn bright." Bush later said the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial is a similar quality to those at the famed mall in Washington, D.C. Within the Lewis L. Adam Memorial Plaza sits the 250-ton red granite Wall of Honor, which serves as the memorial's focal point. The wall bears the etched names of more than 5,000 veterans representing all periods of U.S. history who are family and friends of Brazos Valley residents. Notable names include 24 presidents and former Texas A&M University students who received the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military award. The bronze sculpture mounted at the top of the wall depicts a GI carrying a fellow soldier to safety. The statue is the work of artist Robert Eccleston of Schuyler Falls, New York. Do you have a beloved veteran that you would like to add to the Wall of Honor? The veteran may be living, deceased, or active, and does not have to be a Brazos Valley resident. The cost is $150 per name, and the application deadline each year is August the 15th. New additions are recognized at the annual Veterans Day ceremony. Names received after August 15th will be recognized the following year. For more information on adding your loved ones or your name to the Brazos Valley Veterans Memorial Wall of Honor, contact the BVVM at 979-696-6247 or email them info@bvvm.org. Or you can go to their fantastic website. It's easy, bvvm.org. Technically, Colonel Henry Hill is retired, but actually he's never been busier. We could do a whole show on Henry Hill's service since his military service ended, but let's meet Colonel Henry Hill, the Vietnam B-37 pilot who flew 360 missions, including some of the most dangerous missions during the 1968 Tet Offensive. Henry Hill, A&M class of 56. This conversation was on February the 7th, 2008.
Probably don't even have anything to project it anymore.
You're probably right. Some people probably do, but I don't know whether KMU has the capability or not.
And the other stuff is...
Yes, just pictures and stuff like that. That's great.
Well, it's from my career.
You're part of the been shot at, I see. You're the BSA group.
Yep.
You go have breakfast with them on Monday mornings?
I just finished.
Just finished? Where y'all meeting at?
Denny.
Oh, at Denny's, because y'all used to be at Blue Baker a long time ago.
Well, I never did meet with them there.
Oh, is that right?
And then David already moved to Dennis whenever they invited me to join
that
up
right?
with the
Yeah.
group.
Yeah, because I knew they were bootmaker for a while.
Well, see, I've known Terry Rosser ever since just about the time, shortly after he retired from the Army.
Right.
I was officiating football, and we went over to Trinity, called the game over there, and we got through with that game, and we were coming back, and I said, "Terry, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, not anything." I said, "You want to go to work?" And so I hired him. I'm at Blinn.
Right.
Was at Blinn. Well, now I'm in a different role, but I'm still at Blinn.
Uh-huh.
And so anyhow, he started work for me, and then, see, he's 4 years behind me, so I didn't know him here whenever we were students at A&amp.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah. Terry's a good one. There's no doubt about that.
And so,
Well, tell me about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
I
know
grew
you
up
went
in
to A&M.
Milam County. I grew up in Milam County.
In Milam County. Okay.
Just across the river from Hearn. My maternal grandfather the family settled in the Wheelock area and then moved into Milam County somewhere they settled here in the 1840s. And then moved over to Milam County, and he had a lot of land there and 13 kids. And my mother was the youngest girl. My paternal side of my family came from Virginia in the 1880s, and settled in Milam County. And so I went to Cameron Yo and high school, but I went to elementary and all the rest. Started in a two-room school at Hoyt, and of course there's no school there anymore. And then went to Milano and Sharp and Maysfield, and then to Cameron. And then my senior year, a friend said, "Where are you going to college?" And I said, "I can't go to college." He said, "Why don't you go down to A&M and talk to them?" And so I did, and was accepted. And came into A&M in 1952, and then in 1953, which of course we were all in the Corps, and I moved over to another unit, and a guy told me about fencing, and so I went out for fencing team, and growing up in Milam County in Texas, there's no such thing as fencing. There was, because the top fencer was in Galveston. There was a club in Galveston, and the top two fencers in the Gulf Coast were both members of that club.
Mm-hmm.
They were both left-handers, and I'm left-handed. I came in, and of course everybody wanted to fence me because they wanted to beat those two guys. They didn't really care about me, but they wanted to beat those two guys, but I was a left-handed guy.
Right.
So anyhow, I went on, and I graduated from A&M in 56. Went on active duty with the Air Force in 1956. Went to Lackland at San Antonio to start, and then go to Moultrie, Georgia for my primary training.
Yeah.
Left Moultrie and went to Big Spring for single engine jet training. Finished that, got my silver wings. They said, "Well, you got to sign up for 5 years in the Air Force." If they'd have done it 6 months earlier, I'd have signed up without asking questions. Things hadn't gone that well in Big Spring, and I said, "Well, I'm not sure I want to make this career if that's where people are going to be treated." So I went to Limestone, Maine. I got up there, and 9 months later, the Quemoy crisis broke out. And that was when the Chinese, Red Chinese, began shelling the Quemoy and Matsu, which were islands that were claimed by the Taiwanese Chinese. And so I'm on duty on the midnight shift, and and came off, a message came in, said the following 4, and it listed 3, got these assignments. So I went on to bed, and at noon the phone rang. They said, you want to go to Japan? Anything to get out of Limestone, Maine. I said yes. Unfortunately, I was a little naive because I didn't know that much about the geography of Japan. New York City and Tokyo on the same latitude, and so there's a lot of Japan north of Tokyo, but I got to go south. I went to Fukuoka or Itazuki Air Base, and then was sent out to a 25-acre island with ground radar site, and spent 9 months out there, and then moved to another island that we'd already turned over to the Japanese self-defense force, and then put in my assignment to come back to the States and said I want to go to Texas. There was 42 locations between being a pilot and the ground radar. I got to go to Panama City, Florida, Tyndall Air Force Base. Got married on the way, and after about a year, asked my wife, I said, you want to stay in the Air Force or you want to get out? Because now's the decision-making time. And so we decided to stay. Went on and did 4 years in Panama City. Volunteered to go to Vietnam at that time, and they said, no, you belong to the Air Training Command. And so you're going to Big Spring, Texas as an instructor pilot.
What year was this?
This was in 1963.
Okay.
January 63. So oh, where did I do with this? Yeah, slipped. I guess that slipped off. Anyhow, I went out to Big Spring in 1963 as an instructor pilot on T-37, which is a side-by-side airplane. Various nicknames, the 6,000-pound dog whistle. Mm-hmm. It converts to JP4 to noise and so forth. And then as things went along and I got selected for promotion, and I told my wife, I said, if I do, I said, then I'm going to put in my volunteer statement to Vietnam. And I did, and I was selected as a pilot in the A-37, which is took the T, had 2 engines with 1,000 pounds of thrust in each one, and took the engine from the T-38, which was a supersonic, but it also had an afterburner, took the afterburner off, put those engines, which had 2,000 pounds of thrust. So we went from 2 to 4,000 pounds of thrust. Put 4 bomb stations on each wing, tip tanks on it, and it gave it, without any additional fuel, just the internal and those tip tanks, about a 25-mile combat radius. Mm-hmm. But then we took this 25 airplanes, went through training at England Air Force Base in Louisiana, Alexandria, Louisiana. And we got over to disassemble the airplanes, stuck them in crates, took them over to Benoit Air Base in South Vietnam, and reassembled them, went out and started flying combat. We had, of those 25 airplanes, this was the airplanes that had been T-37s and just been re-engined and those minor modifications on them. And then they built a newer B model, which was brand new, and that's the B model. Mm-hmm. With the probe, in which I did not have a probe. Anyhow, we did that. Flew 365 missions, or 360 missions. Mm-hmm. I was fortunate. I only took 1 hit, but I would say to this day that the 3.5 years of instructor training saved my life that day.
Yeah.
I was on a napalm run, which you're at about 100 feet or lower, and doing 300 knots, and dropped the napalm and took the hit in the left wing, and the airplane went like this. Well, normal reaction would have been to pull back, but no, you roll back up.
Right.
And I did that. That was just reflex from training, being an instructor pilot.
Right.
And so pulled up and had fuel going over the hot engine, shut that engine down, and pulled on up and went into the closest base. And then they said, yep, here it is. Well, it was a .30 caliber that had gone in, and you never realize, you don't think about it, how much action or reaction of .30 caliber hitting an engine. I mean, well, it was just outside the engine about that far.
Right.
And so rolled it back up. I had a Army liaison. He wasn't a pilot with me, and he couldn't believe it, because we just went on in.
Mm-hmm.
He started saying, "Hey, that's a fantastic mission. That's really an outstanding." That's everyday work. That's all it was.
Wow.
I was there for the Tet Offensive.
Yeah.
Tet 68, and when you say Tet, well, yeah, there's a Tet every year, but Tet 68 is the one that is most memorable in American
Right.
minds.
Right.
I
think just last couple of weeks it was the 40-year anniversary.
That's right. Tet is just
Right.
Took place, and
Yeah.
anyhow, if I recall correctly, that was the year of the monkey.
Uh-huh.
60. I was there 67, 68, so
Right.
68 was the year of the monkey.
Right.
And so I went. During Tet, I had been flying missions out of Pleiku, which is in the Highlands, and it's about 2,500 feet above sea level, whereas Benoit was roughly 100 feet above sea level. And so whenever we were in Pleiku, we were flying our missions over in Laos on the Ho Chi Minh Trail at night, busting trucks. The forward air controllers flying an O2, which is the Skymaster built by Cessna with a push-pull engines front and back, and so they'd have two people on board, one flying and one with a night scope, and would find the trucks and then call us in, and we'd come in because we carried our own flares, carried our own ordnance, and we'd go out, and we were going to be up for a couple of hours every time. During that, we were very effective at knocking out trucks.
Mm-hmm.
We had, just over in Laos, just across the border, we had a little river that was coming down, and there was an anti-aircraft gun sight that was there. And it was not causing a lot of trouble. It hadn't shot any airplanes down, but it was always there, and we knew it. So they decided, okay, let's take care of it. So I arranged with the people in Saigon who cut mission orders for one airplane, the one that's supposed to go out at, say, at 8 o'clock to drop back to 8:45, and the one that was going out at 10 o'clock to move up to 9:15. So we had a 30-minute break, and so you went out and went on out to the west, and then came back, and as the other aircraft was coming in, and so we then teamed up, and I was in, that was the first mission I had flown, and so I'm in the right seat giving me a night mission.
Mm-hmm.
And we start down, and they're firing at us, and then when they started firing at us, Well, it didn't work the first time, so we had to come around again, and they're firing at us. Well, then we dropped two 750s right on them, and we didn't have any problem with that gun placement from that point on.
Yeah.
After the Tet took place, well, they said, okay, everything was back in country, and we didn't get to go over and bust trucks at night. Went back to Benoit, and when we were gotten back there, when we were up at Pleiku, whenever we were going to have night attacks, they would walk the rockets in, start hitting way out, and then keep coming in. So you had plenty of time to get from your bed down to the bunker. Well, we hadn't been back for 2 or 3 days, and siren goes off, and I'm trying to pull on my boot, and a rocket hits just outside the building in which we were located. Now, the building that we were in at the time was a French building that had been built several years before, and the French built those buildings with walls 2 foot thick. Well, the rocket is not going to come through there. And it hit this, what we call a hooch, where some maintenance people were living. All of them had gotten into the bunker before it hit. Of course, it set it on fire, and it was a ferocious fire. And that was the last time I ran for a bunker.
Yeah.
Because we said, wait a minute. When a rocket hits, detonates, it's got a pattern kind of like this, in which you got shrapnel going up. Well, it's not going to come straight at you. It's not going to get you unless it comes right in and hits on you right there. I said, don't run to the bunker anymore. And I didn't. I finished the rest of that. That was in February. And I had until July. I never ran to a bunker again. And came back from Vietnam, went to Waco, Texas.
Okay, what year is this? This is
in 1968.
in the summer of '68. Okay.
Well, I come back in the summer.
Yeah.
I was going up there as an ROTC instructor at Baylor. Situation was that just as I was put in for where I wanted to go, as I was about to do that, people who had partial tours were getting their assignments. And they were all going to big airplanes, and I didn't want to go fly big airplanes and so forth. So I said, I'll go to Waco, go to ROTC. And so that's why I ended up in Waco. 3 years there, asked to go to Europe, and the Air Force decided to extend everybody in Europe for a year because they were running out of money. Now we're talking 1970 and 71. And so all the money's going to Vietnam. Congress has not given them any additional money. And so I said, okay, go to Waco and do that. My wife had asked for a semester, and about halfway through the first semester, she said, go get enrolled in graduate schools, because the kids really didn't care because Dad had been gone for a year. They'd learned to live without him, and now I'm coming home, and I was getting up and leaving the house at 7:45, coming in 5:15. I'm back in the house. They had never seen that because when I was in both in Florida and in Big Spring, I'd leave at 4:45 or 5 and get back at 6 at night or 6:30, and so. I started graduate school, did a master's degree by doing it at night and so forth. I wasn't on assignment to do a master's, and so therefore I had to work it in the extra time. Want to go to Europe? And they said, nope, nobody's going anywhere. So I said, okay, where are you going? And I'd volunteered, I offered them to go back to Southeast Asia. if I could go in the A-37. They said, nope, can't go in the A-37 because and rank-wise, I was getting to be a senior major, and so they didn't have a job for me. I said, okay. And I said, where are you going to send me? They said, we're going to send you to radar. Well, I called the guy in radar because he was a year ahead of me at A&M. He was going to high school in Taylor. And I said, Jerry, where are you going to send me? He said, I'm going to send you to Space Systems Operations. And I paused and I said, Jerry, you know that I majored in agriculture, not engineering. He said, Henry, I need majors, I don't need engineers. And we'd had a situation in which captain in Thule, Greenland had pulled a boo-boo and almost started a war. And that he sent electronic countermeasure signal as real when it should have been training. And so the real electronic countermeasures, if it was coming into that site at Thule, Greenland, is an act of war. Mm-hmm. And so anyhow, talked to my boss, who was ace from World War II and had a heart attack while he was in Vietnam. And he came back, didn't know it. He said I went to the club and had dinner and Mexican food and got back, felt like I had a little case of indigestion, took a Tum and went to bed and got up and flew the mission next morning. And whenever he got back to the States, well, went in for his annual physical and they said, Colonel, you had a heart attack. Well, essentially he was on the list to make a star, and he knew that was the end of his career, and he fought it, but he went all the way to Brooks Army Medical, which is most intensive medical examinations, and they said, Colonel, you've had a heart attack. Well, ended up at he and Herb Reynolds, who had just retired from the Air Force and was executive vice president to Abner McCall as president, they said, why don't you go to Colorado Springs? So I did. I went to Colorado Springs and was in Cheyenne Mountain as a missile warning officer. I mean, it's just working shift, and you're looking and watching the input from the sensors that were in Australia, Thule, Greenland, Clear, Alaska, or Fylingdales Moor, United Kingdom. Those were the ICBM detectors. And then we had the sea-launched ballistic missile detectors that were located around the United States. And so I did that for, let's see, got there in August, and in March they said, well, you're going to go up to the Space Defense Center and be a senior director up there, which is the head of a crew. I got up there in the 1st of April, I got, let's see, no, I wasn't either. So I got up there and I was doing that work. And the promotion list came out, and I was on the promotion list to lieutenant colonel. Mm-hmm. And the squadron commanders, well, his deputy was on a promotion list, and that was a year in which there was 3 promotion lists: to full colonel, lieutenant colonel, and major, that were held up by Congress. They all have to be approved before they can actually announce them. Well, the one deputy that was on the full colonel list was headed to Australia as a unit commander. And he said, I need to have that party, that promotion party, real quick. So those of us, there was 2 to full colonel and 4 to lieutenant colonel and 6 or 8 to major. And So we all go together and have a party, plan the party, and in the middle of the party, the squadron commander said, I want to see you in my office at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I go up there and he said, I want you to take over the training. And I said, okay. And so I did, and then I went on and took over the Space Defense Center, and then my initial boss there had gotten promoted to full colonel and was selected as a commander of the 20th Space Surveillance Squadron at Fort Walton Beach, Florida, at Eglin Air Force Base. Mm-hmm. And he said, you want to come down, you want to go down and be my ops officer? I said, okay. And so I went down there. In the meantime, I put my name in the hat to be a commander over in Koh Ka, Thailand. And that's 350 miles north of Bangkok. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, I'm at Eglin. Before he left, they had taken operational readiness inspection and busted it. The worst score that headquarters had ever given out. And so he said, told me, he said, I'm going to warn you now. I said, found out. He said, it's a pretty bad shape down there. He said, you still won't go? I said, sure, I'll go. He said, well, we've got to get ready for reinspection. So I went down, and my wife stayed in Colorado Springs to sell a house, sell a car that I didn't need down there. And I got, because that was a Jeep with four-wheel drive for the snow conditions, and I had a little Toyota Corolla that I'd taken I drove when it wasn't snowing. And so she did that, and I got down there and went to work, got it done. The re-eval came 6 weeks later. They came in, and the outbrief, I said, we didn't think you could ever pass it. And if it wasn't a re-eval, you could get an outstanding. But we didn't make it, and I got selected to be the commander over in Koh Ka, and went over there in 1975. I was there until March, and middle of March, Saturday afternoon, and my phone rings. I'm in the room, and it says, Colonel, you need to come down here and read this message. So I get down there, and the message was shut down at midnight. And what had happened is the base commander knew that things were going bad, but he hadn't told me. So he and I had a fight over that, and I had to get us, I had 1 million pounds of steel and electronic gear and everything to get packaged up, and I had 60 days to get moved. Well, I finally got a hold of the people back in Colorado Springs, told them that, hey, we got to shut down. They said, okay, because the ambassador is the head of the country team, and that's what it's called, and he's the one that calls the shots. And he said, you got to shut down, we got to shut down. And so we did. 47 days later, we were through. We packed it up and shipped it out. And I came back to Colorado Springs and went in the 14th Aerospace Force, and they said, okay, you'll be the assistant deputy for operations. And then in January, word came out that I'd been selected for promotion. And 3 or 4 months later, came in and said, where do you want to go? And I said, where do you need me? And that's always been my answer, because I had no mission to go anywhere specifically. And they said, okay, well, the guy who made full colonel when I made lieutenant colonel and gone to Australia was my boss again. Mm-hmm. And he said, I think you ought to go to Denver. At Buckley Field, we had, we can talk about it now. I couldn't have told you any of this. Yeah. in the 70s, but anyhow, we had the satellite that detects missile launches.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Defense Support Program, DSP. And so we had a satellite there, and there at Buckley was the ground station that controlled the satellite, and then it had all of the feed that came down. Of course, we didn't have any launches except the ones that we knew about. The Soviets never launched a sea-launched ballistic missile. So I did 3 years up there, and in the meantime, the Aerospace Defense Command, which owned that property, was done away with, and we all became a part of the Strategic Air Command. And I went up there in 78, summer 78. And in 79 is when that took place.
Yeah.
Then I was not a fan of Strategic Air Command. They did a fantastic job, but I'm an original Air Force.
Right.
It's like whenever I was in Thailand and they said, move out, I said, okay. We got a few military people here, and we got a bunch of people under contract. Well, by the military rules, whatever a contractor's supposed to do, he does, and the military doesn't touch it. And whatever the military is supposed to do, the contractor won't touch it. But he and I sat down and said, hey, let's throw those rules out. Whatever needs to be done, let's get it done. If it's packaging this, and it's in your area, but our people are not doing anything, there's no use in us sitting on our fanny watching you whenever we could be helping you and get it done. And that's where we got out in less than 60 days.
Yeah.
I don't know what it cost us. I can tell you that 2 Harvard graduates got us out because the stem on which this 90-foot dish antenna sat needed a 1,000,000-pound crane.
Wow.
No, wait, 100,000-pound crane pull, and the closest one that we had in Air Force was on Guam. Well, to get it from Guam by ship over to Thailand would have taken a heck of a long time.
Right.
Thai Electric had one. The manager of Thai Electric in Bangkok was a Harvard graduate. The GE manager of my site that was under contract was a Harvard graduate. That relationship of 2 Harvard grads got that crane. It was only about 50 miles north of us, but they were working 6 days a week. The Thais didn't take off Saturday. They worked 6 days a week. They'd take off Sunday. Anyhow, that crane came in there Saturday night after dark, parked it. When the sun came up Sunday morning, they went to work. When the sun went down, the crane was on its way back to its work site. And as I say, I don't know what it cost us.
Yeah.
I do know this, that they wouldn't let me write a letter of thanks officially to General Electric because we got the job done.
Yeah.
But they said, if you write a letter, then the contract's going to cost more.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get to do it.
Right.
Anyhow, I finished my 3 years in Buckley, and I had been watching what was going on down here in ROTC, at Texas A&M, and I put in my application. Colonel Ken Durham was 2 years ahead of me, and he and I had both been waiters in the dining hall and Duncan at the same time, and so he knew me from that, and he said, you probably wouldn't have got this job if you hadn't flunked Shakespeare. When I look back on it, when I was at A&M, or before I came in, when I was a senior in high school in my day, seniors took English literature for one semester, and then you took grammar for the second semester of your senior year. And I enjoyed English literature. Well, I got here and I had tested for Chemistry 109 instead of taking Chemistry 101 and 102. I got to take Chemistry 109, which is all you had to take as a freshman. If you took that, but then that meant you had 4 semester credit hours somewhere to burn. Well, in English, how I got that I didn't know, but I also tested for a special English course. So I didn't take English 101, 102. I just took English 103. And when I took that, then I took English 212, Shakespeare. Well, what I thought Shakespeare was saying and what that professor did not agree, and I flunked it. But anyhow, he told me, he said, I got selected to be the commander and head of the Air Force ROTC here, and I came here and did 3 years.
So what year was that?
That was 81 to 84.
Okay.
And they said, I called up in 1983 and said, what assignments do you have available for Colonel Space Defense? And they said, well, there's one back in Cheyenne Mountain. And I knew from my years, 3 years there, I did not have the network that the guy had it when I was there, which was...
Where was it again, I'm sorry?
In Cheyenne Mountain at Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Cheyenne Mountain, are you familiar with it?
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the early 60s, and whenever the Soviets launched Sputnik 1 in 1957, and they were developing their space capabilities. Well, Air Force or the DOD started looking and said, we've got to have a place that we can carry out command and control in case of a war. And so they ended up going into this mountain that's southwest of Colorado Springs, and not very far from the Broadmoor Hotel. And they went in there with about 3,000 feet below the top, and drilled out and excavated the granite. And so you were in a place that was 3,000 feet of granite above you. You had granite all around you. You had water, you had food, you had a double set of steel doors that were 2 feet thick. And so that whenever it was totally closed, in other words, the implosion of outside blast might get the first set of doors, but wouldn't get the second set of doors. And so that's where the command and control for space and air defense of North American continent took place. And then you had a similar underneath the ground at Omaha, Nebraska, and you had another one in the Pentagon, and you had an alternate at Fort Meade, Maryland. And so you had 4 of those type command and control centers. And so the job that was for a coordinator and of everything, and as far as the computers and the software and everything was going on. Every general in Colorado Springs except the commander of Fort Carson and the superintendent of the Air Force Academy felt that you worked for him. And I said, no, I don't need that, because I had less than 2 years to go if I had stayed, and then went at the last minute. So I went ahead and retired. after my first year here at A&M, I said, well, let's look at things. And, what am I going to do when I retire? And I went and took a graduate course.
Here at A&M?
At A&M. One of my associates on
This is when you were here between 81 and 84, right?
So 81
okay.
to 84.
Right, okay.
This was in 82.
Mm-hmm.
One of my associates from the fencing team was a faculty member. And I talked to him, and he recommended a course, and I took that one course. And then I said, well, what about another one? And I took another course on John Hoyle. And after that course, they said, you've got to make a decision if you want to take any more graduate courses. I said, okay. I said, whenever you've been in the military, you're either fighting or you're training, and training is education. And so when I looked at it, I've been either an educator or an administrator of education for 15 of my 25 years. And so I said, okay, education administration, I'll take that. So I went, they said, you got to go take the GRE, took that, and I was going to get an EDD, and they said, no, you scored too high, you got to take a PhD. And I said, okay, so I did that, started it, and I could take one course a semester, so okay. And so then when I made the decision to retire, I continued that, and went after 6 months. The head of my committee said, "You want to do an internship with Blinn College?" Yeah, I take it back. It was 18 months, and then whenever he said that, I said, "Yeah." And so I went over and I did an internship, and Brenham, and with Mr. Schwartz was president, and Dr. Volter was financial vice president, and about that started in January, and so long about, well, in February, the dean of men resigned. His family he was an only child. His wife was an only child. They had kids. So there's two set of grandparents and wanted those grandkids closer to West Virginia than they were. And so they got him a job as a federal district clerk. Mm-hmm. And he went back to West Virginia. And so then at the end of the semester, they said, well, you got the dean of men and we've got the academic advisor, counselor over in Bryan College Station. Well, go back to economically, it wasn't the right thing to try to sell here and go to Brenham because that was in '86, and we were still in that high interest rate. Yes, it had dropped below the 17% that I had to pay when I made my first house purchase here. And it's the same house, yeah. Except that it's been refinanced 3 times, right, to get it down to a manageable level. And so I said, okay, I'll take the job over here. Well, I went over here. I was teaching economics and intro to business, and then they called me over there in first of '87 and said, we want you to take over the College Station campus. And so I was an administrator on the College Station campus from 1987 to 1997. Then we merged the whole operation over on to the current campus.
New campus.
Did that for 3 years. Then I looked at it and I said, well, I'm spending a lot of time out here, and I'm paid well, but that's not the point. There's no need for me to do it because I'm not making any money. I'm sending most of it to Washington. And so I went ahead and requested reassignment to the classroom. I teach part-time, Tuesday and Thursday mornings from 9 to 12. Well, if anybody that's been in the instruction knows that you spend a lot more time preparing than you do teaching.
Yeah.
Done that. Well, at the same time I did that, well, remember a Sunday school class I was in at A&amp Methodist said, hey, we need some help with this tax aid program. And will you help us? Well, I didn't have a reason to say no, because when I was in Big Spring, became a member of the JCs. Having grown up in agriculture, and that's, you don't know whether you're going to make a crop or not, and you know, don't know what the price of cattle are going to be. And so I said, okay, and out there in the JCs, the JC Creed, service to humanity is the best walk of life. Those are the last line of the JC Creed, and I kind of adopted that. And so whenever he asked me to help him, I said I couldn't say no. And so I got involved in the tax aid, which is a AARP-IRS joint venture. We worked, well, I'm starting the 9th year. And that's why whenever I talk to you, I said, well, because this is a third day, and this afternoon I'll go in, I'll work from 1 to 5 this afternoon.
Right.
And then on Tuesday I'll help them, and Wednesday I'm scheduled to work, and Thursday I'll help them, Friday, until we get this week out of the way.
Yeah.
And by the end of this week, then we'll have it kind of under control. But right now there's just a crowd of people that want to, and they you know, it's for the elderly and low and middle income people.
Right.
So anyhow, we don't do businesses, and we don't do agriculture, and we don't do rental houses and so forth. But and then of course I belong to the Lions Club and Quiet Birdman, which is a pilots group, and Air Force Association. Bring y'all a magazine every month.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's slow getting it here, but this month I was.
Right.
Or last month, really.
Yeah.
And I've been through the chairs in the Air Force Association, state president, and I've just stayed busy and keep going. And that's
your wife.
I married a girl from Milam County. Both of us went to the same high school. She was 5 years my junior.
Yeah.
We have 3 kids. The oldest one was born in Texas. He lives in Destin, Florida. He is, well, we used to call him our beach bum, then our professional beach bum, and then our professional entrepreneur, as he developed his business as a beach rental service. You know, you go to the beach and there's the umbrellas and the chairs and so forth. Well, somebody's got to run those, and that's what he does.
Where is it?
In Destin.
In Destin, okay.
In Destin, Florida. And that white sand.
Wow.
Yeah, whenever we got married and we went to Panama City, well, looking at the map, you turn off at Pensacola off of Highway 90, and you get on Highway 98, go to Pensacola and go on down and stay on the coast all the way to Panama City. Well, I crossed over the bridge from Okaloosa Island to Destin, 2-lane bridge. Yes, it had a high arc so that the boats could go under it, and then there was nothing. I mean, there was a little motel, a gas station. I don't think a church was there. And a lot of white sand, a lot of white sand. When we were in Panama City, I asked my wife, after we decided we was going to stay in the Air Force, I said, where do you want to retire? She said, in a flippant answer, wherever you can find a job. Well, we didn't buy any land, and land was cheap then. Of course, we didn't have that much money. But today, land down there that's way off of the coast, $10,000 an acre.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable what it is. And then child number 2 is a daughter that lives here in College Station. She's a professional. She's never at home. She's an accountant that works in the hospitality industry. While she was at A&M, she did, first son came to A&M, he spent a year, and then he wasn't interested in education, and so he dropped out. She came to A&M, and she got her degree in accounting. She worked at the MSC and as a night auditor in her senior year, I think it was. And so she went into the hotel industry in Dallas, and then connections there that made there went on, and then she went to Lexington, Kentucky. When she was her supervisor, whenever she first went to work for the Sheraton in downtown Dallas, in that business they changed employers frequently, and so she did, he did, and then a couple 3 years later he calls her up and said, "How'd you like to go to work for this company?" And said, "I'm here, da 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 da," and said, "Okay." So they moved to shut the Dallas office down, and she goes to Lexington. Well, the fortunate part about that, while she's in Lexington, my mother-in-law had always said she wanted to go to the Kentucky Derby. So, daughter, with the connection she made there, got 2 tickets to the Kentucky Derby. Mother-in-law at the last minute said, "We don't want to go." Well, I'm not going to let tickets to the Kentucky Derby go to waste. And so my wife and I did get to go to the Kentucky Derby the year the Philly won.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And so anyhow, I think that was 88 or 89. And so then she has moved around, and she's now an independent contractor and as a consultant in the hospitality industry. She came in Friday from Washington, D.C., and she's been working up there for 6 months or so. She had a dental appointment this morning to put a crown back on, and then she's driving to Houston. She's going to be in Houston for 10 days, she thinks, maybe 5 days. And she's going to work the end of the month, reconciliation of all the accounts and everything and so forth is a key for the controller. And so that's essentially what she's doing. She was training the guy in Washington. She left him with her fingers crossed with the hope. Now she's going to Houston, and then she doesn't know whether she's going to St. Paul next week or where.
She's busy.
The youngest son spent 4.5 years in the Navy. We were in Denver, and he was the renegade of the 3 kids. And I had my orders to come down here, and I called him and I said, "Son, here's what, I don't care what you do, but you're not going to stay here and be a bull." That was my instruction. And so it wasn't too much later, he come in, "I want to join the Navy." And so he wanted us to sign the papers because he was under 18. And I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Dad, I don't want to be in the Army, carry a rifle and on the ground. I don't want to be in the Marines. That eliminates the Marines too." And he had hurt it, injured his eye, so he knew he couldn't fly. And so he said, I'm living on an Air Force base, and I don't like what I see.
Yeah.
Well, what it amounted to is the discipline that he knew there was lack of discipline, and this was, talking 80, 81, and so he said, I'm going to the Navy. Well, I couldn't argue then. He'd given me his reason and his rationale. It was pretty good. So he spent 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Came here, went to college, but while he was in the Navy, he came home and on leave or vacation said, Dad, I want to buy a motorcycle. Will you sign it up? I said, co-sign. I said, okay. I said, okay, I know what that means, but I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I said, I'll co-sign it if you make an allotment to make the payments. He said, I'll do that. Well, what it amounted to is that's in the military finance program is that you tell them that I want X amount of dollars to go to this place, and they'll do that. And so you never see that money. Or it's called an allotment, and they'll make payments for you, whether it's for insurance or a vehicle or whatever. I said, but because that way I knew that it was taken care of. And so he tried to make a deal with the local people, and he talked to the people in Houston. Well, it was about $800 difference. So he made an agreement with the people in Houston. We get down there, and he said, could you start the warranty on this in 2 years from now? They said, we've never heard of that, but we'll ask Harley. And Harley said yes. He said, it's not going to be run. It's going to be something in Dad's garage. Okay, so I got the job of go down there, get it, bring it up here, put it in the garage. Just left it in the garage. 2 years later, he comes home, take it back down, and they serviced it, and that's when his warranty started. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, he ended up being he's a Harley Davidson PhD, and works, lives in Waco, outside of Waco.
I'll be darned.
And and a lot of the people around here, they know him.
Yeah.
In the Harley community,
yeah.
They know him. They know him quite well.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's all fascinating. That really is. This is going to be you're still living a very active life, very active in the community.
Tom, what are you going to do when you retire?
Right.
No, wait a minute. I'm serious because I've known people that my dad told me this.
Yeah.
I was a little kid, and the first time I heard the word retirement.
Yeah.
He said something. Dad says, never retire. So you retire, you die within a year.
That's right.
And that's true.
Right.
So
the bad thing about retirement is you never get a day off.
Well, you're right. You're right. That's it's like sure we're going to do this. I got a BSA every Monday morning, and
right.
My normal routine is I go from BSA to exercise. I had about 3 ski trips ruined and micro tears in my calf. And the last time I get back to Dallas, I call down here and I said, I need a referral for Scott and White. And I said, I need a referral to sports medicine. Oh, you got to come see us first. Well, the bureaucracy. Well, you got a micro tear. It's going to take 6 months for it to heal. I said, oh, wait a minute. So I went over to Bill Nix over in Blinn Kinesiology. And I said, Bill, laid out what had happened. He said, well, I always wondered what it was going to be like when you get old. Says, I'll either kill you or get you in shape one. So I've been going over there. I've been exercising with him 7 years now.
Yeah.
And I normally do 3 days a week.
Right. How old are you?
I'm 73.
73.
And so I do my skiing.
Mm-hmm.
I play golf in the summer. I don't work at Blinn in the summer. I just work the 2 long semesters.
Right.
So
let me see what you got in your box.
What I've got here, I've shown you this. That's the only picture. That's back.
Picture.
That's back as a cadet here.
Yeah.
That hat is from here
Yeah.
as a cadet.
All right.
And then, well, this is the helmet that I wore in Vietnam, and
Wow.
and then
That's your pilot's hat.
when I came back out of Vietnam, well, I guess as far as I know, I wore this one from 1963 until 1970.
Uh-huh.
Because whenever I came back from Vietnam, I was at Waco. Well, I had to fly
Right.
every month.
Right.
And so it so happened that I got to Waco to go to work, and they said, well, we're closing James Connolly. Everything's moving to Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Austin. And I flew the T-33 down there for 2 years,
Right.
in which I wore this. And then I went into the T-39, which is a passenger, and you
Yeah.
like an airline pilot there.
Yeah. Right.
And so, so this one I wore from say 63 until 70.
Yeah.
Got a mask, a gas mask. And well, this mask is set up for the T-39,
Right.
and so that you could
Yeah.
have it available to throw it on.
Right. Right.
And then the helmet.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That'll be good. We'll put those out on the table and show them
okay.
during the interview. I'll scan this and we'll have that ready. And then I want that. This is the
Okay.
it's the airplane poster. This poster. So this is what you flew.
No.
No.
That's the B model. Essentially, it's the same airplane
Right.
because, these were built new after 1966,
Right. Right.
and it had this probe.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Here's what I wanted to show you here. Okay, this shows you. In this case, they've got two drop tanks. These are 750s on the inboard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you'd start out here. This one's empty. This could carry 250 pounds.
Right.
Right beside it was one that could carry 500 pounds.
Wow.
And then these two could carry 750 each.
Right.
And then you have the same over on this wing.
Yeah.
And so
you flew the 37, just the 37, right?
I flew the T-37.
T-37, right.
And I had a picture of it, and I thought I had picked it up this morning to bring with me.
Well, I can probably find.
Well, I've got
internet.
one of a T-37 that's just breaking the runway.
Oh, is that right?
If
you bring it on Thursday, we can capture it there. Yeah.
This was given to me up at Waco by my students. Let's see, Bob Carmichael, Wayne Smith. Let me see, Ivan Hinder,
Bill George.
Bill George, and this was a flight indoctrination program, class of '71.
Right.
Hills Angel. Well, this with the ROTC, they had Angel flight also.
Right.
But these guys weren't angels. That's why they gave it to me. Hills Angels were those guys.
Yeah.
All right. How do you want?
Just put them back in
You
there.
want this in here now?
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'll just take this box and then I'll just bring it on Thursday and just have it all for you and we'll just have it laid out there. Now, I don't know. What's
This is just a computer that pilots use.
Oh. Okay.
In order to do our planning and flight planning and so forth.
Right.
But
we might look at that. It's kind of small. It might not fit. I'm gonna
find out if they can do anything with this. What is it if they can?
It's strictly gun camera film. You're going
Just
to
gun
all you're
camera.
going to see is bullets going out, and
Was this from your
that's they're all yeah, that's all my
all your stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to see if they have any method of transferring that.
that's what I didn't know.
Yeah. They might not, but if they do,
This,
then we'll
this
certainly.
late in the game, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'll find out. But like I say, I'll take care of all of this for you.
Okay.
And
Now these were just.
yeah, this is great. Well, let's this is going to be a good show. Thursday at 2:30. Is that still okay?
That's fine.